If you've been following this YouTube channel, you know that at the beginning of this year, we introduced a challenge, a 6-month challenge to get your A1C in the 5's. And we are hearing so many reports of people who have done exactly that. Today, we'll talk about why. Why does this actually work? The reports have been pouring in as I knew they would. It doesn't surprise me, but it does gratify me. And I am so thankful to the Lord for all the victories we are hearing about. And we want to talk about today why this challenge works. What causes it to actually produce the results that it does in so many lives? Before we do, let me just give you some quick examples of this. Here are some emails and comments that have been directed at me. And so here's one that says, "Good afternoon, Den and Ben. I started the 6-month challenge in February 2022. That was the official start time, February 1, 2022. My A1C in April of 2021 was 8.7. I weighed 195. June 15, 2022, my weight is now 160. My A1C is 5.5. And big happy face and smile there. I did it, they write, in capital letters with 3 exclamation points. I did it. I just cannot believe I actually did get my blood sugar down. Well, I can believe it. This person says, there were times I thought I was going to be one of those individuals who had such a long walk from Mexico back to Canada. They said, anyway, just want to say thank you for starting this challenge. It has really been a motivation. Your menus and videos kept me going. Also, I've been following Dr. Jason Fung, Eric Westman, plus Go Keto with Casey. Everyone has such great information, giving us inspiration, keeping us motivated to get our blood glucose below the diabetic level. God bless all of you, and thank you, thank you, thank you. Wow. So this person is saying, I did it, but I can hardly believe that I did it. Well, my question is, did you not have any faith at all that this would work? Well, then now they know it works. Here's another lady, and this kind of startled me because this lady says, greetings from Brunei, Darussalam. Brunei. I thought, well, I've heard of Brunei, but I have no clue where that is. So I had to look it up, found out it is an island nation in Asia. And anyway, to me, that sounds very exotic, although for them, they would say America probably sounds exotic. Anyway, this person from Brunei just shows you the long, long reach this channel has through YouTube, and by the grace of God. This person says, it's a lady, she says, I had an appointment with my doctor yesterday. My blood sugar was 5.4. He was very pleased. I'd like to thank you for your helpful videos. I've been reducing my carb intake. Number 1, reducing carb intake. Number 2, practice time-restricted eating. And number 3, bought a glucometer to test my blood sugar regularly. And number 4, I stopped snacking between meals. Thank you for your guidance and wonderful videos. Wow, they did everything right, and they got great results. And that's kind of really one of the main points of all this. You can't be a cheater. You say, well, I'm going to do the challenge, but, once a week I'm going to have a high-carb day. No, you can't do that. You're in phase 1, my friend, if you're doing this challenge, and that means you are very strict on yourself. If you want to ease up a little bit, after you get into the 5's, be my guest, but just be careful to keep checking your blood sugar. Anyway, they saw the victory. Here's another one. My son asked me to watch some YouTube videos about plant-based foods as a way of beating diabetes. So the plant-based approach. So this individual says, that's what I started with. After 2 weeks of that, I knew it wasn't going to work for me. I was hungry all the time. Even right after eating a large salad, I tried the plant-based hamburgers and sausages. Now when I look back, they were higher in carbs than a regular old hamburger. Well, that's almost always going to be true. I'd been writing down everything I was eating. When I learned about my diabetes diagnosis, I was taking my sugar levels and blood pressure, also writing all that down. Not much was happening with the plant-based foods. That's when I found your YouTube channel and started learning from you. It's all about the carb intake. Amen. Amen. It's all about the carb intake. Went back to my doctor in May. At that time, my A1C had dropped down to 5.9. Yay! They say I'm in the 5's club. Congratulations. My blood pressure staying lower, too. This morning was 121/66. Wow. I'm envious. 66 on the second number, 121 over 66 blood pressure. It's a bonus. Lower blood pressure almost always comes as a bonus. You're not thinking about blood pressure. You're not worried about blood pressure. Your focus is totally on getting those glucose levels down, and then you get bonuses like lower triglycerides, like you lose weight if you need to, and your blood pressure goes down. So you get a lot of bonuses, but your focus is on getting those glucose levels down. I've learned how to cook low-carb foods. It's like I'm eating Sunday dinner every day now. It was just a matter of finding the right low-carb foods. I'm feeling so much better these days. No heartburn. I can even mow my own lawn. I thank God every day for you and the work you put into the Beat Diabetes channel. Wow. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. There's just no question that this works. And of course, with this challenge, I'm not really saying anything that I haven't been saying before we started the challenge. You don't really need the challenge in some ways, but in other ways, a lot of people really do need the challenge. So let's talk specifically about the challenge and why it is so highly effective and has helped so many people. One of the big reasons is that we understand and overcome the law of inertia. Inertia says it's a lot harder to get things moving than it is to keep things moving. And that's why all cars have gears. Whether you've got a manual transmission or an automatic, one way or the other, your car has gears. And your first gear is going to take the most power because you're coming off a dead stop in first gear. That's the gear your car uses. Even if it's an automatic, it knows to go down to first gear. Now, that's true in almost all of life. You need the most power to overcome the law of inertia. Inert comes from the word inert, and inert means you're still. You're at a dead stop. It's like a rock that's just sitting there. It's inert. It's not going anywhere. It's not doing anything. And for a lot of people, inertia is the big thing they have to overcome. They know what to do, but it's hard for them to get moving and get things going. And the challenge provides a date. It's like, all right, starting on February 1, which is when we started. It's like from that date, your date is set. I've established February 1. There's nothing magical about February 1. It's not like February 1 has some special vibrations. It's just an ordinary day. But when we establish that's the day I begin, it becomes powerful for you. And you know, one of the funniest things that I have heard is when people say, I've been watching your videos for 2-3 years, but I never really saw any changes. I never made any changes. I just kept eating like I did. And I'm thinking, how could you like my videos if you don't change? If you're sticking with the standard diet, how could you even stand to watch my videos? But a number of people have said that. They watched my videos for years. They liked them. And some people even say, I like your calm voice. It helps put me to sleep, which I've had better I've had better compliments than that. And, of course, many people say, I like to watch Benedicta, and she's so beautiful, and amen, she is. But more important than Benedicta's beauty or my calm voice is the message I'm putting out to diabetics and pre-diabetics and people with metabolic issues, and that is that there are certain steps you need to take. So people would say things like, well, I've been watching, but I finally decided that on February 1, or I decided maybe into March or April, people are still trying to sign up for this program. I would start the program, and I would start following those 8 pillars, and we'll have a link in the description about the 8 pillars of this 2022 challenge. So it gets you moving. You lose the inert state and you start moving. You get first gear kicking in and off you go, and you can move into second gear and so forth. So anyway, it overcomes the law of inertia. That is one of the main reasons a challenge like that works so well. It's like, well, I've been wanting to start. I've been watching Dennis and Benedicta, and I really believe what they're saying is true, but I just can't get started. And sometimes you just got to say, I will start. And if you're wanting to start now, it's too late to go back to February 1, 2022, but you can start today. Another reason it works is because I just keep hammering home the theme of feedback and talking about Mike the meter. Mike the glucose meter, your glucometer. And the glucometer is powerful because it gives you the information you need about which foods work for you and which don't. You're going to find out very quickly what I already knew, which is that high-carb foods drive high blood sugar and low-carb foods keep blood sugar lower. Now, if your blood sugar when you wake up in the morning is at 300, don't expect you're going to eat a low-carb meal and it's going to dive down to 95. It won't. But if you just keep eating those low-carb meals, it's going to pull down that baseline glucose level, and you might be surprised before too long you're starting to see fasting glucose in the 110. So it provides feedback. If you watch my videos, if you go with the challenge and you buy yourself a glucometer, which I encourage everybody to have, even if you're not diabetic, you should have a glucometer and check yourself once in a while and see how you spike. It's going to be powerful. It's going to work. So number 1, law of inertia. Number 2, feedback through the glucometer. Number 3, the basic components of this challenge are incredibly powerful. Carb restriction, time-restricted eating, no snacking, having an early dinner. The different pillars of this challenge are incredibly powerful. And as I was thinking about this, I was reminded of something that the late Sarah Hallberg declared in that famous video she made, where she said if you want to reverse diabetes, it starts with ignoring the guidelines. Powerful video. Everybody should watch that. Anyway, one of the things she said that struck me so vividly and powerfully that I've never forgotten it. She said, we, speaking of doctors, Sarah Hallberg is a doctor. I'm not, but she was. And she said, we doctors find that low-carb intervention for diabetics is so powerful, we can literally take people off of hundreds of units of insulin in days to weeks. Low-carb intervention is so powerful, people can get off all kinds of insulin in days to weeks. Now, don't you try to do that without a doctor, working with a doctor and having a doctor tell you. But she, as a doctor, was saying, we can get people off a lot of insulin in a very short time because it's just incredibly powerful. Many, many years ago, when I was just a young fella, I was actually a school teacher before I became a minister and before I reinvented myself as a diabetes educator. When I was a school teacher, and I taught fourth graders, and I also taught junior high math. But I lived out in the country, and this was in Missouri. This was not in Texas, and we had some real snow in Missouri. And that particular year that I'm referring to was incredibly cold and snowy. I couldn't even tell you how many snow days we had during that time. And living out in the country, our house just collected the snowdrifts. And when we got big snows, we would get snowdrifts of 3 feet, 4 feet. And I remember one particular day when we got a tremendous snow. The snowdrift around our house was so high that it covered our car. I couldn't even drive the car into the driveway. There was too much snow to start with, but more snow came. The car was covered. Well, I got the day off. It was a snow day, so there was no school. But it wasn't much of a day off for me because I knew I really, really needed to shovel the snow out off of our driveway. Again, we were in the country, so there was kind of a longer driveway, and then it went to the highway. And the yard was full. I mean, we're probably talking 3 feet normal, and the drifts could be up as much as 5 feet. So I had my little snow shovel, and I, had to face my day of shoveling snow. There was so much snow, and the driveway was of such a length, and then there was my car at the end of the driveway, which was covered with snow. You couldn't see the car at all, couldn't even see the top of the car. So I went out in dread, knowing that I would probably spend most of the day shoveling out that driveway, clearing off my car and getting things in shape. So I had just started to shovel snow. And one of my neighbors came by in a pickup truck. Now, this is good old country folk in Missouri, and neighbors were really friendly. If you live in New York or Los Angeles or somewhere like that, you may not have friendly neighbors. But this was a friendly guy driving his pickup, and guess what he had in his pickup truck? In the back of his pickup, he had a new snow blade to fit his tractor. This was a farmer. And he saw me out there shoveling, and he stopped. He said, I just got this new snow blade for my tractor. How'd you like me to shovel your driveway for you? Well, boy, he didn't have to ask me twice. I heartily agreed and invited him. Yes, please, that would be awesome. So he did. He came with his tractor with his brand new snow blade on it. And I kid you not, within about 20 minutes, the whole driveway was clear. He not only cleared the driveway, he put a chain to my car and pulled it out of the snowbank and got my car clear. Everything was done in about 20, maybe 30 minutes max, but I'm thinking more like 20, 25 minutes. It would have taken, to do all that same work, it would have taken me almost all day, probably 7-8 hours. And here he did it in about 20 minutes. Well, that's the difference between a tractor with a good snow blade on it versus one scrawny little fellow with a snow shovel. If you say, well, I think I'll watch my sugar, I won't have so much dessert, and that's the extent of your attack on diabetes, well, that's not even a snow shovel. That's going out into a blizzard with high snow and with a tablespoon and trying to dig out your driveway with a tablespoon. Just not going to work. So anyway, these pillars, this challenge, the points I make, incredibly powerful to drive down glucose levels fast. So very powerful components. It's one reason it works. We like things that work, and we don't like things that don't work. And this works, and that's why this YouTube channel is relatively popular. And Dr. Jason Fung and Dr. Ken Berry and all these guys, Dr. Eric Westman, these different ones, millions and millions of people are watching different ones of us, saying essentially the same thing. Most of these guys are doctors. I'm not. I'm just the cheerleader for these guys and saying, hey, I agree with what these doctors are saying. Now, I know there's another batch of doctors that say other things. So doctors don't even agree among themselves. But my vote goes for guys like Bernstein and Fung and Dr. Eric Berg and Ken Berry and so forth. Another reason it's powerful, another reason why this challenge works is community. People know I'm not doing it on my own. We had like a little over 3,000 sign up initially, and they just kept sending in emails. I didn't have the heart to turn them down. We're up to around 4,000 right now. And people are hungry. People are desperate. People are saying, give me something that will work. And we just keep hearing the testimonies. That's why I keep sharing them. I know for some of you, you're saying, well, Dennis, I've already heard things like that, but I'm just going to keep on saying it. And as long as I have this YouTube channel, I will be sharing testimonies of people that find victory, because there's something powerful about hearing it again and again and again. There's a Bible verse that says, by the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, let every word be established. So if you ever want to really get it into somebody's heart, you say it again and again and again. And by the way, that's why the New Testament starts with the Gospel of Matthew, and you read that, and then you go to the Gospel of Mark, and then Luke, and then John. 4 different accounts of the life of Jesus. God is determined to just hit you again and again and again with Jesus Christ, which is how I became a Christian, by the way. I was an agnostic, wasn't sure of anything. But I'm getting off track, so let me get back on. Anyway, the testimonies. So, number 1, the law of inertia is overcome through a challenge like this. Number 2, you get feedback with your glucometer. Number 3, the components are incredibly powerful. Number 4, there is a community. People are doing it along with you, and I'm sharing some of their testimonies. If we do this again, I would love to get a YouTube members group where we can share with one another. I don't know anything about that, and I don't know if I'd even have time, but I would love to do that. May even try to enlist somebody to help me with it. Number 5, testimonies. Number 6 is hope. One of the things I'm so keenly aware of is that so many diabetics, and I know it because I hear from you again and again, when you first get diagnosed, you are so depressed and so down and so gloomy, and the reason is there is no hope. You see, hope is a look to the future with anticipation and a joy that things are going to get better. Hopelessness says things are lousy now, and they're only going to get worse. And when you hear words like chronic and progressive related to your diabetes, it's bad now, but just wait 5 years, it'll be worse then. Wait 10 years, it'll be worse then. It's just going to go downhill from here. Now, if you really believe that, then of course you have no hope. And this challenge and just me presenting it and telling you there's hope for you, hope rises in your heart. Motivation comes with hope. If you've got hope, you've got motivation. If you've got motivation, you've got hope. You can hardly separate the two. Where there's hope, there's motivation. And so part of this challenge is just the motivation, the hope that says, you know what, 6 months down the road, I think I'm going to be better. I think I just might be in the 5's. Hope. Very powerful. Lastly, the diet itself. It all started with the diet. That was really the whole extent of what the challenge was to be about when I first started thinking this way. But after a while, I realized it was much more than that, and there should be much more than just me telling you, well, eat this and don't eat that, and eat this and don't eat that. But the diet is helpful for several reasons. Number one, it gives you an example of what the low-carb lifestyle looks like. What the low-carb diet, or I hate to say diet because it's more than a diet, it is a lifestyle, but what it is to eat low-carb, because a lot of you think you were eating low-carb and you find out you were not. And you were saying, well, I think I'm eating maybe 40 grams of carbs per day, and if truth be known, you may have been eating 120 grams of carbs per day. So the diet and the foods recommended give you an example and an idea of exactly what it looks like. And then you develop a rhythm because you start eating this way February, March, April, May. In 6 months' time, you've got this thing grooved in your life. You've developed the rhythm of low-carb eating. If you've been faithful, if you've stuck with it. Now, if you haven't, then you don't have it grooved and you don't have a rhythm going. So you're going to get out of this what you put into it. But again, to kind of sum up what I'm saying here is, I'm not surprised we're seeing victory. I knew we would. I knew this works. It's not just some freakish lifestyle and diet that may work with a few weird people. It works with virtually everybody. Now, if you're type 1, obviously you'll still have to take insulin. If you're a LADA, you may still have to take insulin. Probably you will. And so I'm not saying that you can avoid insulin. But if you're a typical type 2, you probably, as you work with your doctor, can get off all your meds. You'll see your blood pressure go down, your blood sugar go down, your triglycerides go down. Things will improve in such a dramatic way. Benedict and I would like to invite you to study the Bible with us through our podcast. Join us in our home as we do our morning Bible studies. With a podcast, there's nothing to see. You just listen. And that means you can enjoy our Bible study while you drive in your car, go for a walk, or work out at the gym. Our podcast is called Discover the Word with Den and Ben, and you can find it in most platforms where you get your podcasts. And if you know nothing at all about podcasts and how they work, there's a link in the description that will help get you started.